Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Cash Out. My name is Kenneth Suna and Cash Out is my weekly YouTube show where I talk about what happened in the stock market last week and what might happen in the stock market next week. Now, if you're new here, as a lot of you are, you'll notice that Cash Out for the last couple of weeks has been solely focused on this whole GameStop, AMC, Wall Street Bets, Reddit situation. Answering your questions, giving you some cautionary tales, blah, 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 blah. You'll also maybe remember in last week's episode, I talked about having some microphone problems. My microphone doesn't fit in my new iPhone because the case, this little pluggy thing won't go. So I got a plug extender. Still doesn't work. So I don't know what's going on here with this microphone because when I plug it into my old iPhone, this little light here on the back turns green right away. Doesn't work with the new phone for some reason, so I'm dealing with tech support. So if the sound sounds not as good, that's why. Anyway, the way this show works is I talk about what happened last week, give a little recap, look forward to next week, talk about what companies are having earnings, how that might impact the market, why you as an investor should be paying attention to some of these companies and what you might be able to learn. And then at the very end of the show, I answer a couple of the TikTok questions that I get. I answer most questions on TikTok. Problem is on TikTok, you only have 60 seconds. So some of the questions I really need to go into in-depth answers, and you can't really do that unless you do like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. And the problem with that is trolls. I get a lot of people who will watch like part 4 and go like, hey, idiot, you didn't mention this, this, and that. And I go, well, excuse me, but you watched part 4 if you had watched, anyway, so that's the problem with these trolls. Now, what happened in the stock market this week? On my end, the stuff that I was really noticing pretty big time was cannabis stocks. And like I've mentioned before, I trade and I work in a bubble, and it wasn't until I got on social media and on TikTok in the stock world that I started to pay attention to more of what was going on in the markets, because I got this show and I've got followers who ask questions. But prior to that, I didn't take notes. Prior to that, I didn't really know what was going on because I didn't really care. I'm not a financial analyst, right? I wasn't, like a Jim Cramer coming on TV every night and talking about what was going on in the markets. And I don't really consider myself a Wall Street guy. I consider myself a self-employed stock trader who's chosen stock trading as the way to make money and live my life the way that I want without having to go out there and get a real job. So I never really cared what the markets were doing. I never really cared what was going on with this sector or that sector. I would pick my, 10, 15 stocks and I'd trade them all year. And maybe I'd throw in a couple here and there because they look good. But if you look at the stuff that I trade, it's generally, it's a lot of companies, but you'll notice lots of trades happening. Like in 2019, I think, my big stock that I traded throughout the whole year was Funko. I traded Funko almost exclusively all year. Just that one stock. It went down, I'd buy. It went up, I'd sell. It went down, I'd buy. It went up, I'd sell. I noticed after a while with Funko, and I noticed this with other stocks too, and you'll be able to do your own research and find other stocks like this as well, where you'll say like, hey, I've noticed for the last couple of months, this stock has bounced between, say, $20 and $25 consistently. Even when they have earnings, their earnings aren't so great, but they're not bad enough that the stock tanks, right? It'll maybe inch its way up to $25. Earnings come out, it drops back down to 20, but then it levels off. And you start thinking, hey, I think I could trade this. And that's what I did with Funko. I don't remember really what the price was back then. I think it was actually in the 20s. But I traded it up, down, and I traded other stuff along the way. But primarily, it was Funko. That was my one stock, and I do that today as well. I have my stocks, and when something happens to one of them, and it has some massive rally, I step back and I wait a little bit because I want to establish a new trading range. So I don't really talk about the stocks that I trade on here because I don't want inexperienced traders going, oh, I'm going to buy. If he's buying it, it's good enough. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. I'm going to buy it too. I really don't want that to happen because a lot of times people say like, just tell me what you buy, I'll buy it. And I want to make what you make. But you don't know when I'm buying, you don't know when I'm selling, you maybe don't have the experience that I have, you maybe don't know how to read the charts like I do, or maybe you do, but you are more nervous than I am, and so you get out before the stock can really go anywhere. Or maybe I'm more nervous than you are, and I get out too early and you stay, and maybe you make a little bit more. There's just so many variables here that if I were to just say, this is the stock, a lot of time what happens is people just blindly buy it. And you'll end up hearing people like, the question I always ask is like, but why, right? Why did you buy it? And that's when they can't answer. They go, some guy on Reddit, or I saw this guy on TikTok. But that guy on TikTok who's maybe saying, here's the stock that I'm buying, what he's not telling you is he knows the trading range. What he's not telling you is he knows how much he's willing to lose. What he's not telling you is he knows how much he's willing to make. What he's not telling you is that if he looks at the chart and it looks different that day, he'll make a snap decision. So maybe he says, oh, I buy the stock around $5 and I sell it around $5.30. And he buys it at $5, but you buy it at $5.20 because you're watching his video a day late. And maybe he decides at that point at $5.20, the stock is overbought and he's out. Yeah, it didn't hit $5.30, but it came close, I'm out. But you don't know that because he's not doing daily updates, because that's not the point of maybe that guy's channel. So you buy at $5.20 when he's already sold, but it's just too complicated. And that's why I don't like doing that. I also don't like, I feel really guilty, even though I probably shouldn't, when someone says, hey, you mentioned this stock, so I just bought it, and now I have a loss. Well, why'd you do that? So I'm gonna drink my iced coffee as well. I hope you don't mind. We can have coffee together, because it's 10:45 in the morning. My mom just texted, hi. So that's why I don't share my stocks, because there's so many variables, and I don't want people messaging me going, I bought it because you talked about it. Because a lot of the stocks that I trade are trash. They really are. A lot of them are garbage. A lot of the stocks that I trade, I don't even frankly know what the companies do half the time. I was having a conversation with some woman on TikTok about this the other day. She was asking, how do you know which ones to buy and hold and which ones to sell? And I said, well, frankly, the stocks that I'm trading are trash. I don't even know. I know their ticker symbol. Maybe I know what the ticker symbol means, right? Maybe I know the full name of the company. Maybe sometimes I don't even know that. And you might say, wow, dude, but you're investing in these companies. Not really. I'm not investing. I'm making quick trades. Now, things change for me when I actively start to trade that stock, right? If it's just a one-time in and out trade, who cares? But if I start trading it more frequently, then I want to know what I'm getting myself into. Then I really want to pay attention. I want to learn about the company. I want to read their financials just to make you a smarter investor and trader in general. It doesn't hurt to have the knowledge. So once I start trading a company a couple times and I go, hey, you know what? The stock bounces around in a trading range. It's pretty consistent over the last several months. I'm going to make this my active daily trading stock, whether I day trade it or swing trade it, whatever. So I familiarize myself with the company. It just makes you a smarter investor. That's what I think, at least, or trader. Anyway, so one of the companies that I've been trading recently was Amiris. They are I wouldn't even call them like a chemical company, but I guess they make sugar substitutes, right? They make baby wipes. They make household products. See, I can't even really tell you what they do. But it's been one of my most consistent trading stocks up until recently. It was a stock that bounced between the 3s and the 5s, maybe, pretty consistently, enough with enough consistency that I could trade it all the time. And then something happened, and remember I said I live in a stock bubble. I don't really care what these stocks are doing. I don't know what happened. Maybe they had really good earnings. Maybe they got a new CEO or something, and the stock just took off, and it got up to like $12. Great, because I still had a position that I could sell off some shares, and then I waited. And what I'm waiting for is for the stock to level off. I don't know when that will be. I'm not touching the stock until it starts to level off. It gets up to 12, maybe it hit 14, now it's 10. I'm not touching it. I'll sit back, I'll have it on one of my little side charts on my computer, or I'll have it on my little on my notepad, or I'll set alerts on my computer. I've done TikTok videos that are up on YouTube now showing you how to set alerts. And I'll say, hey, tell me next time it gets to like the $9 price range, because it's already had, maybe I'll trade it now in the 9s to the 11s. We'll see. So that's what I do as a trader. Why was I talking about this? I think I need to have like notes. I think I need to be more organized. I was talking to somebody else on TikTok, and she wants to start a channel as well, not for stocks, but for, like artificial intelligence, robots, drones. Very interesting. And I'm like, please start it, because I'd be interested. Self-driving cars. And she was telling me, and she was telling me that she has a teleprompter. I was like, I don't have a teleprompter. Maybe I should get one, because it'll help me stay organized with this show. But I could just write notes, which I haven't done. Anyway, I can't remember why I was talking about Amiris. I can't even remember why I was talking about trading. But last week we saw the cannabis stocks go bananas. Now, I've been a big fan of cannabis stocks leading up to like around the election, because my thought process was, if Joe Biden wins the election, maybe he won't nationally legalize it. He seems like kind of an old man when it comes to like talking about cannabis. I've seen some interviews where he goes like, it's a gateway drug. But maybe he'll see the light, man, and legalize it, or at least decriminalize it. All of these steps help the cannabis sector grow and build. States are legalizing it now. I don't even know how many states have it legalized. Anyway, I was a big fan of cannabis stocks as an investment. So I'm a big fan of these cannabis stocks, and I've been trading them on volatility, but I'm also holding a position of those shares that I want to just hold throughout the next couple of years, because I think cannabis stocks can do very, very well. Now, what we saw last week was TLRY and a lot of the other cannabis companies went bananas. And like I said, I live in a little bit of a trading bubble. I don't always know what's going on or why. It's only because I have this show and I have this TikTok page now that I have people coming to me going, can you explain what happened? That I'm learning and reading and figuring out what went on, so I can talk about it on Cash Out. What happened with TLRY is basically what happened with GameStop and AMC. Reddit got behind TLRY. They drove it up. The hedge funds shorted it. It fizzled, apparently. The momentum fizzled on, I guess, the Reddit end, although, I have my opinions on what retail investors can actually do. These companies have hundreds of millions of shares, potentially. I don't know how many shares TLRY has publicly traded, but the more shares you have publicly traded, the harder it is to move the stock, right? Apple has 16 billion shares on the market. Makes it a little hard for the retail investor to go, I bought one share, I'm helped. You're not really doing much. You have to have the big money, and the hedge funds have the big money. So I think what we're going to come to find out here is hedge funds have been in on all these trades, like GameStop, like AMC. Yes, a couple got hurt, but a couple made a fortune off of this, piggybacking off of what Reddit was doing, driving the prices higher and higher, maybe even encouraging people on social media to keep buying. Not from the hedge fund, right? It wasn't like hot, like, like on TikTok when someone says something shady and like someone comments like CIA has entered the chat, right? It's not like Wall Street is coming into Wall Street Bets and going like, hey, super big hedge fund here, keep buying. Yeah, keep buying. But you remember that scene in, I talked about this last week too, in Quantum of Solace, the James Bond movie, where they have Mr. White tied to the chair and he says, we have people everywhere, and M says, like, everyone uses that expression, like florists say we have people everywhere. Hedge funds are like that. They're tricky, they're evil, they know what's going on, they pay attention to everything, they manipulate, and retail investors are the ones, unfortunately, in the case of GameStop, a lot of them got really, really hurt. And, yeah, a few hedge funds lost, but now the hedge funds know what to do. They know maybe if they're going to regulate, they know who to regulate. They know what to do now. They know how to play this game. And maybe the hedge funds don't do anything, and they find a way to profit on both sides. And the retail investors will continue to, unfortunately, get hurt, which is what happened with GameStop. I cannot tell you the amount of questions and DMs that I got from people saying, I put everything I had into it, and now I'm sitting on a catastrophic loss. What do I do? Well, you can learn from it is what you can do, because there's not really much you can do at this point, except hope and pray that it comes back. And we all know that's not really a strategy. So a lot of innocent people got hurt. A lot of hedge funds got hurt, but a lot made a killing. And the ones who did get hurt probably are going to make their money back in no time. Now, we're seeing the same thing, at least in my research. What I've been reading is TLRY went from like 30 to 70 to 30 in like a couple of days. Unbelievable. And what you would see online are all these strangers going, I heard it's going to 150. I heard it's going to 1,000. I heard. And the problem with listening to strangers on the internet is they don't know what they're talking about. And I always ask people, oh, that's what I was talking about when I was talking about Amiris. When people say, I bought it because you said so. My question is, and it ties into this anyway, why? Explain to me why you're buying the stock. Is it because everyone's talking about it? Because that's okay, right? That's momentum investing. I'm buying it because everyone's talking about it. Great, that's a momentum trade right there. What's your plan? What's your exit strategy? Are you going to sell it? And when? Well, everyone online, nope. Well, this guy on Reddit, nope. Some guy on Stock Talk, nope. Don't listen to them. The thing is, it's hard to know, right? Because we when we're looking at a stock like GameStop, and it goes from like 30 to, I think it went from like 30 to 60 the first couple of days that it was really moving. And when I first started to notice it, I was like, wow, wasn't like, it was like in the 60s. And I was like, wasn't the stock like $30 earlier today or yesterday? And then, and then it's in the 90s, and then it's in the hundreds. And everyone's coming to me going, should I buy? Should I buy? And it's just like Peloton, when it was picking up steam and getting really, really hot. I had a friend who asked, Peloton had gone from 19 to maybe 40. And he was like, should I buy Peloton? And I was like, well, not here. Look at the humongous rally that it had. It went from 19 to 40. No, it's just had a humongous rally. This is why I also don't like talking about what to buy or sell, because the blame always gets put back on you, and it really should be the individual investor who's making their decision or not. Because I don't like to be the guy who goes, yeah, no, I wouldn't buy it. And then it goes crazy. And he's like, dude, I asked you and you said no. And now I feel like shit. So Peloton goes from 19 to 40. And I say to my friend, I wouldn't, I'm not a licensed financial advisor or broker, so I can't personally say like, no, don't buy it here. But all I would say is I wouldn't, because of this massive rally that it's had. I'd wait for it to cool down a little bit and pull back. What ended up happening with Peloton is it went up to like 100 in no time. And, you're just watching it every day move higher and higher and higher. And yeah, it drops a little, but it still is way up from where it was. There's no way to know where these stocks are going to go, right? Nobody knows that Peloton is going to go from 19 to 140 in a few months. Nobody knew that. And by the way, when he was asking, that was way before COVID had started. And I couldn't have foreseen what was going to come with, gyms being closed and people working out at home. When he asked me when it was 19, it was way before COVID. We didn't even know what it was. To the point though, makes it hard to predict where these companies are going to go, especially these new companies where you can't compare them to other stocks in their sector, right? If someone were to say to me, hey, I found this other tech company that's similar to these tech companies, but it's way down here because they're relatively new, where do you think this stock could go if they have good earnings? Then you can research between the other companies, right? You can look at this new startup down here and say, well, their revenues are way down, but if their revenues get up to what some of these companies are, maybe it could go to this price because that's where all these other companies are. Maybe. And at least then you have some sort of idea. But when we're talking about Peloton, there's nothing that's really been like Peloton. When we're talking about this GameStop short squeeze, you know, the only other one that we can think of that went bananas was Volkswagen back in like the 90s, like late 90s or early 2000s. Volkswagen. There have been other short squeezes, but nothing like this. Plus nothing with Reddit behind it, pushing it on social media and getting a lot of retail investors involved. And even though retail investors solely can't move the markets, they contribute. So it's hard to know where these companies will end up going. So with TLRY, you know, if you had purchased it at 30 and it's 70 the next day, and you're going on social media going, when should I sell? When should I take my profits? All the strangers out there are going to say, well, I heard it's going to go to 1,000. I heard it's going to go to 200. I heard it's going to go here. I heard it's going to go there. You, the inexperienced investor, are obviously going to pick the biggest one, right? Because you bought it at 30 and someone's going, could go to 1,000. Okay, well, that's where I'll sell. Why? Why 1,000? It might not ever get there. You know, like, you're picking the top one because that's what you want to happen. Of course you want it to go to 1,000 if you bought it at 30, or even if you bought it at 70. Of course you want it to go to 1,000. You know, if someone says it could either go to 1,000 or it could go to 100, you know, you're gonna go, I hope it goes to 1,000. And so that's what is dangerous about this. The question you have to ask yourself, and I've done this video before, is if someone knocks on your door and they've got the cash in hand that you currently have, your current profit, you bought it at 30, it's 70 now, you bought 100 shares, that's a significant profit. If someone was standing in your front door with that cash in their hand right now saying you can have it right now, or I'm out of here and I'll come back later, and it might be double, or it might be what you started with, it might be break even. What would you do? When you see the money, that helps you make a better decision, because you're not being overly greedy with no reason, right? It's not like you're saying, well, I've done the research and I've compared this stock to that stock, and that's how I'm able to come up with this as a price target, or it's been to this price before, so if it could get even close to that, you know, there's no rhyme or reason here. You're really just crossing your fingers going, I hope it goes to 1,000 because that's what I'd like. Of course, the other strategy with the guy who's standing at your front door with a handful of money is to go, I'll take half. Right? You bought 100 shares at 30, at 70 now. You know what? I'm going to sell 50 shares. That's what I would do. If I had purchased TLRY at 30 and it hit 70 the next day, I'd sell half. I'd say, well, just give me half and I'll let the other half ride. Or if it starts to pull back at a certain point, I'll dump it and take the rest of the profits. Where is that certain point? Whatever you choose. Remember, you bought it at 30. So as long as it's not 30 again, you're still profitable. Bought it at 70. Let's say it drops to 65. Let's say it hits 60. You don't know. Maybe it could bounce and go back higher. You don't know. That's why you have to make these hard decisions. Okay, if it gets to $59, I'm selling because that's a number that I'm happy with. That's a profit that I like. And if it gets back down to 30 and I still believe in this company, I can buy back. Maybe the momentum is over, the rally is done, it tanks, it's over. Maybe then I'll not go near it. You have to be able to ask yourself a lot of various questions, you know, especially on stocks like TLRY or GameStop that have no proven track record or history. There's nothing that you can look at the past and go, oh, in the past when it's had these big runs, it's pulled back to about halfway and then it's gone higher, or it's leveled off. There's nothing that exists out there. It really is truly about your profit. Are you happy if the guy knocks on your door and has the cash? Are you happy with that number? That's why I always set goals. That's why I always say have a plan and stick to your plan. I'm not wearing my have a plan, stick to your plan t-shirt. I'm wearing the buy the stock, not the stuff t-shirt. Available on Etsy. You don't have anything to base it off of. So what's your plan going to be? How much money would you like to make, realistically speaking? Not because some guy on Reddit said or some guy on TikTok said, but you. What's a number that you'd be happy with? That's how I base all of my trades. And if it's a trade that is predictable, in other words, I've been able to look at its trading range and go, oh, it goes from $5 to $5.30 over and over, I can tell you my profit is going to be around $300. Around, because let's not be literal here, right? We're not buying exactly at 5 and selling exactly at 5:30. It might not get there. I might buy at 5 and it might get to 5:23 before the charts maybe look like it's overbought and it might be turning around. And then I go, I'm out, and I only make $230. Boo-hoo. So that's what happened this week in the stock market. Cannabis stocks were on a tear. It was maybe Reddit driven. Maybe it was the hedge funds who were pushing it up and then saying it was Reddit driven just because they maybe drove up the price, profited, shorted it, profited when it went down again. Cannabis stocks are still something that I strongly believe in for the Joe Biden era. I think cannabis stocks will be a good investment. So if you bought TLRY at 30 and you sold it at 70, I'm not telling you what to do because I can't. I personally did add a little bit to my cannabis stocks after the big sell-off. I'm not going to tell you which ones because I don't want you copying my trades just because, well, he bought it, so it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. I don't want to tell you what I trade because I don't want you getting in on stuff that you don't know. I want to teach you how to do your own research. So anyway, for the cannabis stocks that sold off pretty big time later in the week, I added to my positions because I'm a buy and hold investor on these stocks. And you know, if they have some massive rally, yeah, I said I'm long term, but I got bills to pay, man. So, you know, if there's another massive rally next week and my stocks go flying, I'll sell some. I'll lock in some gains and I'll cover my condo fees or whatever. So that's what happened in the stock market. We also Bumble went public. Perfect timing for Valentine's Day. I don't know much about Bumble. I know that the money that they make is maybe through subscriptions and I guess ads. I don't know. I used to be on Bumble. I'm not on Bumble anymore. I got a little burnt out from dating, especially with COVID. It's the whole thing. I think that the CEO is the youngest female billionaire ever because of an IPO. I think that's the story. So congratulations to her. You know, whether you think billionaires should exist or not is for a different conversation. Hopefully she does something good with her billions. I know I would, right? I don't know why these billionaires aren't doing more. Well, I do know why, because they're not on our side. By definition, they're not on our side. They're billionaires. Anyway, so next week, this is the point of the show where I talk about what companies are coming out with their earnings and maybe how it relates. Now, I know people get very pissy when you talk about politics on the show, and I've already talked about Joe Biden a little bit with cannabis, but people often say, hey, keep politics out of this, buddy. Just talk about the stock market. Well, those people don't realize that the stock market and politics are pretty much married. So anyway, let's talk about what's going on with the earnings and what's going to happen potentially next week. There's a great Instagram account that I follow called Earnings Whisper. They show you the top stocks that are coming out with earnings, and of that list, I've compiled my list of the stocks that I'm most interested in watching. On Tuesday morning, we have Palantir. That is a social. It's one of those. It's a. See, I told you I don't know what these stocks are. It's like a social. It's like a internet security monitoring something. I don't know. Palantir has earnings on Tuesday morning. Now, if they do web security and social, like online security and cyber security, I think that's what it's called. If they do cyber security and everyone's going to be working from home for the future, now I'm seeing way more companies announcing work from home. And that's going to be, I think that's going to be one of the plus sides of COVID, is that we're going to see more people being able to work remotely, work from home. Now the companies realize that we can actually do this. You can actually work from home. Companies are going to be all about it because they're going to be able to save on what they're spending for office rentals and stuff like that. You know, they used to have these huge offices. Well, maybe now they can downsize to smaller offices. Great for them, bad for commercial real estate. Anyway, Palantir on Tuesday morning should be interesting because of cybersecurity. Tuesday evening, SolarEdge reports earnings. SolarEdge, I don't know much about. I know that they are in solar, and I'm intrigued. I don't invest in any of those kinds of renewable energy stocks, but they are on my list. I don't know if Solar Edge will have a strong earnings now because the previous administration kind of didn't really believe in global warming and didn't believe in climate change and all that stuff, and this new administration does. I think green energy stocks will do very well as we start rolling out some green initiatives. So Solar Edge might not have a great earnings on Tuesday. I don't really know. I'm not familiar with their earnings in general. But going forward, it's a company that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes on. On Wednesday, Shopify comes out with earnings. Man, Shopify, whew. Many years ago, I had a t-shirt company, and t-shirts never went anywhere. And I realized that the reason that the t-shirts never went anywhere is because when people buy shirts from people online, they're buying into the person, right? They like the character or the gimmick or the person who's behind the shirts. And I wasn't behind the shirts because I was too shy. I didn't like being in front of a camera. And so I thought, I'm just going to put funny words on shirts like this. And they'll just sell because they're funny and they're cool shirts. They didn't sell because there was no personality behind it. I wasn't coming out wearing the shirt, doing funny things in the shirt, mentioning the shirt, but I had a Shopify account, right? Not only did I have a Shopify account, I had a Printful account too. And Shopify benefited from my business. Printful benefited from my business, even though I didn't sell any shirts. Guess who was buying a lot of those shirts? Me. I was buying my own inventory to give away to influencers on Instagram or to wear and talk about, at the gym, someone would say, funny shirt. And I'd be like, actually, here's a card, you can buy one. So all these companies make money off of these side hustle people. And eventually, all the people who have these side hustles, they give up, right? They go, this isn't for me. I've spent so much money, I haven't made any, I'm done. But when they leave, someone else goes, I have an idea. So Shopify is benefiting from everyone. They're benefiting from the people who are very successful, and they're benefiting from the people who aren't successful but want to try. So Shopify really nailed it. They're very expensive. I think they're over $1,000 a share. In this side hustle economy or gig economy, companies like Shopify, I think, will do very well, and I think their earnings could be strong. That's Wednesday morning. Wednesday evening, there's a couple that are very interesting. TLRY, I'll be keeping an eye on TLRY as we've been talking about them. Twilio, another cybersecurity cloud stock. I'm very interested. I don't know actually if they're cybersecurity, but they are cloud. I'm interested in Twilio's earnings. Stamps.com is reporting earnings as well. I used to own it. I sold it. I regret it. So I'm interested. I always just keep an eye on it just to see how much money I could have made had I kept. Regrets. And Sleep Number. Sleep Number, their earnings come out on Wednesday. I'm curious about Sleep Number as well because a lot of people have been spending money renovating their homes and buying furniture and new bedding, right? Bed Bath & Beyond had good earnings. A lot of these home goods stores are having good earnings because people are at home and they're sprucing things up more. Hey, if I'm home all the time, I want a new couch. I want new pillows. I want new towels for my bathroom. I want a new bed. Personal side story. Sleep Number beds are fucking trash. I had one. My ex and I wanted one. Well, she wanted one. I didn't. I thought it was overpriced. We went to the store. We got the hard sell. We purchased the bed. She is a teacher, so she was off at school. I am a self-employed stock trader, so I was home. They called. They said, we're going to be delivering the bed on Thursday or whatever. So I'm there. I'm at home. They show up with the stuff. The crew is there. They have these huge boxes. They even took away our old mattress. So they take away the old mattress and they set up the new one. And I'm watching these guys assemble it, and it's like a plastic case, and then they put this foam around the corners to like hold up the plastic, and then they put a piece of foam in the middle because we got king size, and they put this foam in the middle, and then they take these two little blow-up mattresses and they plug them in and they blow them up, and they put the little air mattress in the little air mattress, and then they flip the lid over and they zip it, and they take a piece of little teeny, they put a piece of foam on, like a little thin piece of foam, then they put the cover and they zip it, and they go, all right. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, is that it? And they're like, yeah, that's it, we're done. And I go, no, I don't mean, wow, you did that very quickly. I mean, is that the bed? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, it's an air mattress. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, I could have gone to like Walmart and gotten 2 twin-sized air mattresses and some foam and made this myself. And they were like, yeah, I guess you could have. Well, goodbye. And they walked off, and I was like, we spent thousands of dollars on air mattresses. I was so angry. I thought there was more to it than that, right? Obviously, there's an air mattress component because you can make it firm or soft or whatever, but I thought there was more to it than that. What a waste of money. So my then girlfriend comes home, and I'm furious, and she's like, no, and I go, look, and I unzip it, and I lift it, and she goes, and we were both like, what? So we tried it for a week or so, hated it. Tried it for another week, hated it even more. Called them and we were like, we want to return it. And they were like, oh, no, try it for another couple of months. And I was like, yeah, a couple of months, then we won't be able to return it anymore. And they're like, no, just try it for another couple of months. They didn't want us to return it. So we kept saying to them like, no, we really are unhappy. And you go, oh, well, you know what I'll do is I'll send you a foam topper and it'll arrive in a few weeks. And then we want you to keep it for a couple of months. They were doing everything to stall this return policy. They did not want us to return this bed. They wanted us to be stuck with it. So 2 or 3 weeks later, we get this humongous piece of foam in the mail rolled up, and it's thick, right? It's like 2 inches thick of like foam. So we put it on top, we zip it up. Still hated the bed. Still hated it. So we call them back. No, we would like our money back now. No, you got to try it for longer than a couple days. You got to try it for a couple weeks, maybe even another month. And we were like, yeah, that's getting closer to the return. And when we won't be able to return it anymore, we're really unhappy. We went full Karen on these guys. And we were like, no, put us on to your supervisor. We want to talk to your whatever. They get the managing supervisor on. We were like, we hate this bed. We want to return it. And they were like, okay, you can return it, but you have to box it up yourself. And we were like, what? Who has a box that big? And they were like, well, you better figure something out because, if you don't return it within the next 3 weeks, you can't return it at all. So you better figure this out on your own. And we were like, this is bullshit. We want someone to come and pick it up. And they were like, nope, we only do drop-offs. It's in our fine print. We don't do pickups. What? So we had to when I tell you, this thing came in boxes that you could like fit like a smart car in. Where are we going to get boxes that big? And then they said that they wouldn't cover the shipping. Do you know how much that's going to cost in shipping to mail this stuff? It cost like $250 to mail the bed back. We had to get 2 boxes to fit everything in, and we just crammed everything in, taped it up. We didn't even have cars big enough to get these boxes to the store, right? We had to take 2 trips. It was so difficult. They made it so awful. And anyway, that's my Sleep Number story that you didn't ask for. And now I have a purple. We got a purple. When we broke up, I got another purple. I love purple. They're fantastic beds. I recommend it. Back to stocks. Thursday morning, we've got Walmart, Marriott. I'm interested in Walmart because they are moving into the whole like Amazon kind of space with like the next day delivery and blah, blah, blah. Walmart also good in a recession or a slowing economy as we have because their stuff is pretty cheap. So I would imagine Walmart would have good earnings. I am not investing in Walmart because I don't like the Waltons. And then we have Marriott on Thursday morning as well. Another one that I'm curious about is Marriott because of travel and COVID. I think their earnings are going to get hurt because no one's going anywhere. And the people who are going are much less than what they're used to. So I would imagine Marriott is going to have maybe not great earnings. Long term though, it might present a buying opportunity if their earnings are really, really bad. I also don't know if Marriott pays a dividend. That might be something if their earnings are really bad and their revenues are decreasing, that they might have to cut a dividend if they pay one. I'm not sure. Thursday evening is Roku. Roku is one of those stocks that, like, I didn't even know what they did, and before you know it, it's like $400 stock. I think it's in the 300s now. I still don't get what Roku is, right? Is it just a streaming thing? Or do they have a network? Do they have like a Prime? I don't know what Roku is, but the earnings are coming out, and it's another one of those work from home stocks, right? If everyone's at home, they're watching more TV, they're watching and streaming and blah, blah, blah. Roku could see a benefit from that, I guess. Although I don't know, because I don't really know I really thought Roku was just a plug-in streamer like the Alexa thing or the Google thing or the Apple TV. So I don't understand why that stock went so crazy. They must have some other kind of thing that they do. People in the comments will tell me what Roku does. Friday morning, John Deere. Of all the ones on the list, Solar Edge intrigues me from a green policy initiative play. Palantir, Twilio from cloud and the internet stuff intrigued me. John Deere also intrigues me because of infrastructure. Joe Biden, again. And look, people who don't like talking about politics when talking about the stock market need to understand that they're linked. If Joe Biden is able to pass some heavy-duty infrastructure, what kind of companies do you think will benefit from this, right? Especially if the infrastructure projects involve fixing up the roads, fixing up the schools, fixing up the bridges, fixing up crumbling buildings, maybe even adding solar panels to some government buildings. Who do you think benefits from this? Companies like John Deere that loan out equipment, that rent equipment, that have tons of tractors and pulleys and lifts and cranes and wrecking balls and companies like Caterpillar, companies like Solar Edge, right? If you're saying, hey, let's put solar panels on the roof of government buildings, but we need cranes and we need things. Those two companies are going to benefit. So are companies like Caterpillar. So are companies like steel, like Alcoa. If we're making more, if we're fixing up crumbling buildings, we're going to need steel. U.S. Steel. Joe is a big fan of Buy American and all that stuff. And so other companies that could benefit would be companies like Alcoa. Now, we're done with the recap, and I'm getting kind of long-winded here because the show is going to almost an hour, and I don't like doing that. I like to keep these shows around a half hour. So I've got 2 questions from TikTok. I've been talking a lot about living below your means. The reason that you have to live below your means as a stock trader is because income isn't guaranteed. So if you work a job at Starbucks, even though you're only making minimum wage, you know what you're making. You've got your guaranteed income. If you work a 9 to 5 in an office, you know what your income is. You also get healthcare. I don't have healthcare. I have to buy my own, and it's very expensive. So it's why it's important as a trader to live below your means. One of the big questions that I was getting is, how do you manage your money? If this is your only job and you're taking money constantly out to pay for things, how do you then make more money? How do you have more money to put into the stocks? And the way you have to do it is, A, you have to live very low below your means. B, you have to have a lot of money set aside in emergency rainy day funds for the quiet months, because there will be quiet months. And C, you have to make more than you spend, which plays back into live below your means. I understand that this world might not be for everyone trading. A lot of people have parents that they're taking care of, children, pets, mortgages, homes, student loans. And so when people say to me like, well, what's your budget? Tell me how much you spend. Same as tell me how much you make or how much do you trade with. I don't like answering those questions because they set very unrealistic expectations, because my situation is probably very different from yours. I understand also, though, from your point of view, if you're looking at this going, man, I'd really like to trade stocks and work in my pajamas and work from home and not have a boss or commute or micromanager anymore, I'd like to be in charge of my own destiny, but I need to know how much I stand to potentially make. You do it, and you've been doing it for 10 years. How much do you make? I understand that side of things as well. What you need to also understand is there is no set salary here, right? It changes all the time. So if you have people who depend on you for your income, this might not be for you. It might not be for you because you don't have any guaranteed income. And if you have a job where you get healthcare, and that healthcare is able to provide insurance for your entire family, your partner, your children, you lose that. Not only do you lose it, but individual healthcare is extremely expensive in this country. My rate last year was $350 a month with a $10,000 deductible. So I had a friend who had ankle surgery recently, and she was complaining that her deductible she had to pay. She said, I had to pay $300 to hit my deductible. That's it? I would kill, not really, to pay $300 for my deductible. My goodness, my deductible is $10,000. And when I tore my pec 4 or 5 or 6 years ago, I had to pay $10,000. Well, maybe a little less because my deductible kept going up. But, around that, I had to pay $10,000. And then my surgery was covered. And the surgery was $58,000. So if I didn't have insurance, I'd have had pretty steep medical bills. Either would have wiped me out financially, or I would have had to take loans, and those loans ain't cheap. So healthcare is insanely expensive. Now this year my healthcare has come down. I pay $308, so that's fantastic. I save $42, and for some reason my deductible dropped to like $7,500. Wow, tremendous. Even still, if you have people who depend on you, it might be harder. Might not mean that you, by the way, can't do it at all. It just might mean that you have to work your full-time job and then do this as a side hustle. Swing trade, for example, instead of day trading, because day trading means, sorry, I'm itchy again. It's these plants. Day trading means you have to be actively watching your computer all day. Even swing trading to an extent, but swing trading maybe is a little bit easier. You can glance at your phone, you can set alerts, you can set sell orders, So anyway, it might not be for you because you might have a different situation than me. And I don't like to set unrealistic expectations, and I don't like to discourage people, right? If I say, I trade with $30,000, and I don't put that $30,000 into every stock, I divide it up between several. Well, if you don't have $30,000, you're gonna be like, I can't do it. I only have $3,000. But you could. You might maybe make a little less, and maybe you decide it's not for you, and maybe you decide that you'd rather invest your money and just, do that. That's why it's important to ask these questions. I get it, but I also don't like putting on blast publicly how much I make. I think you can all understand that. So the follow-up is, what's your budget? Because I'm always talking about how I live so far below my means. So I did a little Googling last night, and I found out that the average American spends $5,000 a month. That's their monthly budget. $5,000 a month includes things like mortgage, rent, daycare, bills, utility bills, cars, insurance, gas, student loans, debts. We're getting up there in the numbers, you can see, and groceries too. Clothes, if you have kids that are constantly growing. You can see how the average American spends a significant amount of money. So when people say, well, tell us what your budget is, it's not going to do you any favors, and it's going to set unrealistic expectations, because a lot of it is based on socioeconomic situations, where you're from, what your family situation is like, what your means are, what you can do. If it's a lot harder to get out of poverty than people like to say that just work a little harder. It's not that easy. So there's that element to it, but there's also personal choices too. People make bad personal choices. When things are good, they are spending. They buy, they shop, They live beyond their means. And then when things get bad, like right now, they're blind. How could this have happened? I thought things were going to be great forever. Whereas people who live below their means have they constantly are living below their means all the time. So they've got maybe more in savings, more in investments, more that when the shit hits the fan, they're a little less worried because, good, I only have one kid instead of 6. I only have one car and it's a shitty old Toyota instead of 2 Mercedes, one for me and one for my partner, and they're so expensive. But hey, in good times, we could afford it. Now we're panicking. When you live below your means, you have more money, you have more security, more freedom, more peace of mind. So anyway, my budget is extremely small. I own my apartment, no mortgage. So when I say it sets unrealistic expectations, that's why I don't like talking about this, because right off the bat, I can't do that. My condo fees are $400 a month. My healthcare is $308 a month. Those two things right there are around $700. I pay my auto insurance yearly, so I get a little discount. I don't drive anywhere, so I barely spend any money on gas. I have the cheapest cell phone plan on the planet. I use Boost Mobile. You can make fun of me if you want, but I live in a city, so the service is fantastic. And if I was a single person on Verizon, I'd be spending $80 a month. Why would I spend $80 a month when I can pay $35? You gotta think less stupidly. Why do I need Verizon? I'm fine with Boost Mobile, and I work from home, so I'm not even using the data. I'm on my Wi-Fi. So I don't understand why people would spend $80 for something. Maybe if you live out in the country and you don't have any service, maybe you need a better plan. But here in the city, Boost Mobile's fine, and I'm cheap and I'm fine with it. My gym is $35 a month because I joined right when they opened. They had a deal. My utilities are very low. In the summer I crank the AC, so my electric bill is a little higher. In the winter, my windows are all open. I like the cold, so my utility bill is very low. I don't have any kids. I don't have any pets. I'm not in a relationship. Relationships, by definition, are expensive because there's 2 of you. You're treating, you're going out more, you're doing things, you're ordering. You're ordering groceries for 2 people or buying groceries for 2. They can be more expensive. My cars are paid off. And I know, right? Like I say, who cares about what you're driving and all that stuff? And then rich coming from me because I have 2 cars and I don't need 2 cars, but I don't buy my cars to impress people. I don't really care. It makes me actually uncomfortable when people go nice car, dude. It makes me uncomfortable, which is why I don't have a Lambo, I do have a Dodge Challenger that I really like, base model. And I have a 1985 Ford Bronco, which I got for nothing. And I've only put in more than I probably should have because it was in a little bit of an accident when the brakes gave out. Otherwise, I wouldn't have spent very much on it. I spent a lot because I had to get it fixed. I don't need that Bronco, but I've always wanted one. And since all of my other expenses are so low, I'm able to then buy myself something and not worry too much about it. I'm not like other people who are tapped out because they're buying constantly all the time to fill a void because they're depressed or they want to keep up with the Joneses, or my neighbor got a 50-inch TV, so I gotta upstage him and I gotta get a 60-inch TV. I don't play those games. I don't care about that kind of stuff, and so many people do that's why they end up in these situations. So when you look at it, plus groceries, I'm a big boy. I like to eat. I probably spend $1,800 a month on my expenses. Most people don't. Right? Most people spend way more because they have student loans. I didn't go to college. Most people have medical bills, or they don't have insurance because they can't afford it, and then they get sick and they get hit with these huge bills. So when people say, what's your expenses? What's your budget? I don't like answering those questions because you can see why it sets unrealistic expectations. But people ask, so there's your answer. And that's also the reason that I don't share how much I trade with or what I make, because it sets unrealistic expectations and it can discourage people from getting started. And you don't have to be a trader, but I would like everyone to have investments. And if I say, well, I invest this much, and you go, well, I don't have that much, then I can't do it. Of course you can. Even if you're investing $5 a week or $5 a month, it's more than you started. And when you start investing, you're going to decide, hey, I really like this. Maybe I can cut back a little bit more, and I can put $10 in every month. And then every time you weigh a purchase, you go to Starbucks, $6. Man, that's $6 I could have put into my stocks. At the grocery store, you pick up some steaks. These steaks cost the equivalent of one share in the company that I'm investing in. And so I'm gonna leave it there because I'm almost at an hour. And the other questions I'll just answer on TikTok. And thanks for watching. I'm gonna go finish my iced coffee with my reusable straw because it's good for the environment. If you like this video, if you like Cash Out, if you even like me, please subscribe, hit the bell, hit the notification button so you get alerts when I do new videos. If you don't like me, that is okay too. Thanks for watching and have a good day.